Titanfall. A fast-paced, action-packed gaming experience has had a lot of its attributes inherited by Apex Legends, from some of the flashy movement to the lore and of course the weapons. So today we're going to be looking at all of the Titanfall weapons that exist in the Apex universe and have entered the Apex games. The R301 is probably the most preferred assault rifle for the majority of players. It uses light ammo, which is common, and has a base ammo capacity of 18 bullets that each deal 14 damage to the body, 23 to the head, and 10 damage to the legs. It's also very casual friendly and has very little room for user error. But did you know that this prized weapon is actually the successor to the R201 from Titanfall 2? It is meant to be a newer version of its predecessor built by the Latimosa Armory. They look almost identical, with the only real difference being that the iron sight shaft on the R301 looks a little bit more narrow than its predecessor. Other than that, it's basically the same gun. Even the recoil and the accuracy are more or less the same. The R201 deals 25 damage per shot and it shoots 810 rounds per minute, which is exactly the same as the R301. So the next time you pick up an R301, remember that the R201 came first. Moving on from the R301, we have the VK47 Flatline. This assault rifle is the direct successor to the Frontier War era's V47 Flatline. It uses heavy ammo and has a base ammo capacity of 20 bullets, each dealing 18 damage to the body, 32 to the head, and 14 to the legs. The VK47 Flatline and the V47 Flatline share common traits such as the recoil pattern, its fire rate, and of course the terrible iron sights. They were both built by One Defense, and I honestly think that the iron sights on the TF2's Flatline look slightly worse than the ones in Apex Legends. Then again, we usually have broken things like this in Apex. And also, although there has been a nerf to assault rifle hipfire in general, the VK47 Flatline is still generally preferred by pros and high-level players because of its easier hipfire and stronger mid-range capabilities. In Apex Legends, the Hemlock Burst AR is a medium-range assault rifle that fires in 3-shot bursts. And its Titanfall predecessor, the Hemlock BFR, was also a 3-round burst rifle. However, the Hemlock BFR fired at a much faster fire rate than Hemlock Burst AR, making it more of a traditional burst rifle than the more deliberate paced weapon in Apex Legends. In terms of appearance, the Hemlock Burst AR and Hemlock BFR are very similar. They both feature a sleek, futuristic design with angular lines and a metallic finish. The Hemlock Burst AR has a more compact design than its predecessor, with a shorter barrel and a smaller magazine. The Hemlock BFR, on the other hand, had a longer barrel and a larger magazine, which gave it a more imposing appearance. One of the main differences between the Hemlock Burst AR and the Hemlock BFR is the way that they handle. The Hemlock Burst AR is more accurate and stable, with a slower rate of fire, making it easier to control in combat. The Hemlock BFR, on the other hand, had a faster rate of fire but was less stable and required more precise aiming to be effective. Another difference between the two weapons is their attachments. In Apex Legends, the Hemlock Burst AR can be equipped with a variety of attachments, including a scope, barrel stabilizer, and extended magazine. The Hemlock BFR, however, had a more limited set of attachments with only a scope and a suppressor available. Overall, the Hemlock Burst AR in Apex is a refined and deliberate evolution of the BFR from Titanfall, and while they share some similarities, the Hemlock Burst AR is more accurate and stable and is better suited to the pacing of Apex Legends' combat. The Nemesis Burst AR is a 4-round burst energy assault rifle that was added in Season 16. When it's fully charged up, it has an insanely high DPS of 196. Now, although the Nemesis has no direct predecessor in Titanfall, it does look a lot similar to the splitter rifle for Titans. Take a look at this secret reload animation, it's basically the same thing. And to round off all the assault rifles, the Havoc rifle is actually the only assault rifle that doesn't have a predecessor stemming from Titanfall. So let's take a look at some SMGs. The Alternator has always been the perfect early game weapon. It is the only submachine gun to have a twin barrel with bullets alternating from one barrel to the other, hence the name Alternator. Additionally, it uses light ammo, which is pretty common in the early game. The Alternator was first made by MSL Tactical in Titanfall 2, but the manufacturing was later passed on to the Burl Defense, which made the current version that's used in the Apex games. In terms of appearance, the Alternator is nothing short of identical to its Titanfall counterpart. The intuitive crosshair makes for more accurate hip firing across both generations. The recoil patterns are again fairly easy to control and don't require heavy practice. However, the damage output, fire rate, and ammo capacity aren't the best, and you would probably lose to every other submachine gun. Hence why it's the best for the early game, but becomes less useful as the game progresses. In Apex Legends, the Car SMG has solidified its identity as one of the best weapons in the game. With its ability to utilize both heavy and light ammo, it has become a solid gun for being economical, not to mention its high fire rate and damage. In comparison to its predecessor, which also is named the Car, it does seem to be the better gun in Apex because it leans more towards being a pure SMG, unlike in Titanfall 2, where the Car was in the middle between the R201 and the R97, more on that one later. Before, it tried to play the role of having a high damage output and high accuracy, but paid the price of having a lower fire rate. Nowadays, the Car has a great fire rate and provides insane utility with only one downside. The reality is most people simply don't have the time to learn a difficult recoil pattern. Personally, it actually took me quite a while to really get that recoil pattern down, but since they buffed the next gun on the list, I haven't looked back. The R99 in Apex is also a submachine gun that excels at close-range combat, especially since the damage buff it received this season. Like its predecessor, the R97 compact SMG, the R99 has a high rate of fire and insane DPS, making it deadly in the hands of a skilled player. However, there are some differences between the R99 and the R97 compact SMG. One key difference is that the R99 has a smaller magazine size than the R97 combat SMG, which makes it less forgiving in the extended engagements. For example, the R99 has a base magazine of 20 bullets, while the R97 has a base magazine of 40. However, the R99 can be outfitted with an extended magazine attachment to help mitigate this weakness. Another difference is that the R99 has a more unique recoil pattern than its predecessor, with a slight upward and then right-leaning kick. This can make the R99 a bit more difficult to control than the R97 combat SMG, but again, skilled players can learn to master the recoil with ease. Overall, the R99 is a deadly submachine gun that shares many similarities with its Titanfall counterpart. While there are some differences between the two weapons, both are well suited for close-range combat and can be deadly in the right hands. The Volt SMG has been in an awkward spot ever since it was added to the game. It is an energy submachine gun that deals 15 damage per bullet and a DPS of 180, which actually is pretty low for an SMG. The Volt SMG is the successor to the Volt in Titanfall 2, which was a suppressed hit-scan SMG. As for comparisons between the two versions, the current Volt seems to have a weaker hipfire spread compared to the Volt in Titanfall 2, however, it still has a much better hipfire accuracy than almost every other gun in the game. If you pair this with a purple laser sight, you could get some pretty insane hipfire beams. In terms of aesthetics, the old Volt seems to have a bulkier build, unlike the current one, which seems a little bit more sleek. The current version of the Volt also gets a LED screen on the left side of the gun, which shows some important status such as the ammo count. Another key difference is the recoil and the base mag size. In Apex Legends, the recoil on the Volt is more vertical and easier to control, but that isn't the case in Titanfall 2. Additionally, the base magazine size in Apex is 19, while in TF2 is 33, which is absurd. And now you might have heard all this and you might actually start to think, oh wow, the Volt is such a great gun. No, let me stop you right there. While it may seem to have all these advantages, with such a high damage and an easier recoil, the Volt will lose gunfights to guns like the R99 and the Car SMG 100% of the time. The only time you would win is if they're bad at the game, not to mention the general scarcity of energy ammo in Apex Legends. But at the end of the day, who cares? Most people would rather use what is comfortable and fun instead of sweating it out and hitting 35% of their shots, so it still comes down to personal preference, but you will never see a pro player pick a Volt over a Car. Rounding off the SMGs, Prowler Burst PDW is not a successor to any gun in Titanfall 2. So let's take a look at some LMGs. The Devotion LMG is a powerful heavy machine gun with a unique charging mechanic that increases its rate of fire over time as it is fired, which would make it a devastating weapon if not for the long charge time and its limited mobility. The predecessor to the Devotion LMG from Titanfall has to be the X55 Devotion. The X55 Devotion LMG in Titanfall shares many similarities with the Devotion LMG in Apex Legends, such as their high rate of fire and the ability to sustain fire for extended periods of time. Both weapons are also known for their impressive damage output, making them highly effective against both enemy pilots and titans. One key difference between the X55 Devotion and the Devotion in Apex Legends is that the X55 does not have a charge-up mechanic. Another difference is that the X55 Devotion in Titanfall has a much larger magazine size than the Devotion in Apex Legends, with a base magazine size of 55 rounds. Hence the name. This allows the weapon to sustain fire for an even longer period of time before needing to reload. Overall, the Devotion is a mid-gun with a great predecessor. The M600 Spitfire is a heavy machine gun in Titanfall 2 that also appears in Apex Legends as one of the game's weapons. The Spitfire is known for its larger magazine size and slow damage output. And for a good reason too. If the Spitfire had a slightly faster fire rate, it would be broken, just like it was in those terrible seasons when the Spitfire reigned supreme. In terms of similarities, the Spitfire in Apex Legends is quite similar to its Titanfall 2 predecessor, the M600 Spitfire. Both weapons have a large magazine size and are effective at mid-range to long-range engagements. One key difference between the two weapons is their handling. In Titanfall 2, the M600 Spitfire has more recoil and takes longer to aim down sights compared to the Spitfire in Apex Legends. This makes the weapon slightly more difficult to handle in Titanfall 2, but also adds to the challenge and skill required to use it effectively. Oh, and if you thought that the screen shake was bad in Apex Legends, just look at how terrible it is in Titanfall. Another difference is that the Spitfire in Apex has an attachment system that allows players to customize the weapon with various hop-ups and optics, giving it more versatility in combat. Additionally, the base magazine capacity in Apex is 35, but in Titanfall 2, it's 80. The L-Star LMG in Apex Legends has a predecessor in the Titanfall universe, namely the L-Star X1 from Titanfall 2. Both weapons share similarities in their energy-based ammo, high rate of fire, and impressive damage output. However, they differ in their handling, ammo capacity, and overheating mechanics. The L-Star LMG also has an attachment system for customization. Overall, both weapons are decent in their respective games. I do have to say though, the L-Star LMG is more of an early game weapon, which falls short later on. And as for the Rampage LMG, it does not have a predecessor in Titanfall. So let's take a look at some Marksman rifles instead. For the Marksman rifles, we first off have the G7 Scout. The G7 Scout is a popular weapon in Apex Legends, but did you know that it has a predecessor in the Titanfall series as well? The G2A5 from Titanfall is the predecessor to the G7 Scout. While both weapons are semi-automatic rifles, there are some key differences. For example, the G7 Scout has a lower recoil and a different attachment system compared to the G2A5. The G2A5 instead has a ridiculously fast fire rate. Additionally, the G7 Scout can be a huge ammo eater despite being meant for poking damage. However, both weapons are versatile and deadly in the hands of a skilled player, and I would recommend the Scout in any lobby and at any skill level. The D2 Double Take from Titanfall 2, developed by the Burrell Defense, was a unique sniper rifle that fired 2 rounds simultaneously with each shot. This allowed players to take out multiple enemies or hit the same target twice for increased damage. It also had the ability to charge up shots for increased damage and accuracy, making it a versatile weapon on the battlefield. It is also the predecessor of the Triple Take. The Triple Take in Apex Legends takes some inspiration from the D2 Double Take, but also has some notable differences. Instead of firing 2 rounds simultaneously, the Triple Take fires 3 rounds in a horizontal spread, making it even more deadly at close range. It also has the ability to charge up shots for increased damage, with the added benefit of reducing the bullet spread, making it a formidable long-range weapon as well. Finally, the Triple Take has a base ammo capacity of 18, while the Double Take has a base ammo capacity of 12. As for the 30-30 repeater and the bow kick compound bow, neither have counterparts from Titanfall 2. So what about shotguns? The Apex Legends Mastiff's predecessor is the Mastiff Combat Shotgun from Titanfall. Both weapons have the same name and share some similarities in terms of design and function. There are, however, some differences between them. In Titanfall, the Mastiff Combat Shotgun was a rare weapon that dealt high damage but had a slow fire rate and a limited magazine capacity. It was a weapon that required skill and precision to use effectively, as missing a shot could leave the player vulnerable to enemy attacks. The Mastiff in Apex Legends, however, is a more powerful version of the Titanfall Mastiff. It has a faster fire rate, making it even deadlier in close quarters combat. Another difference between them is the iron sight crosshair. In Titanfall, the Mastiff's crosshair when you're aiming down sight seems to be farther down the barrel, while in Apex it is right on the sight. One of the unique features of the Mastiff in Apex Legends is its projectile spread pattern. Unlike other shotguns in the game, the Mastiff's projectiles form a horizontal spread pattern that deal a devastating damage to multiple enemies at once. Overall, the Mastiff is a fearsome weapon in Apex Legends that had its roots in the Titanfall series. While it has undergone some changes and improvements, it remains a great substitute for when you can't find a Peacekeeper. And yes, at the end of the day, the Mastiff sucks, it just feels wrong to use. In Titanfall, the EVA 8 shotgun is all about being close to the opponent, and it makes quick work of minions. However, it falls off at mid-range, and its damage drops off significantly if used even farther away. The EVA 8 shotgun is an ideal weapon for hardpoint domination matches for those who like to defend hardpoints. In Apex Legends, the weapon becomes a bullet hose with a level 3 shotgun bolt, and the double tap trigger can be used in spaces with lots of cover, as the burst damage is pretty significant. The EVA 8 shotgun has a one-shot kill in Titanfall and a fast fire rate in Titanfall 2 and Apex Legends. However, its weaknesses include weaker damage than the Mastiff in Titanfall 2 and the inability to two-shot kill opponents in Apex. But again, the fast fire rate more than makes up for this. The SA3 Mozambique is the predecessor to the Mozambique that we have in Apex Legends. It had a base ammo capacity of 4 and could be extended to 6. The Mozambique in Apex Legends is generally seen as a joke since it does a minuscule amount of damage and is only good for the early game when you have nothing. However, with the addition of the hammer point hop-up, skill players could put the gun to good use. use. The two generations of the Mozambique are very much similar in both aesthetics and functionality. And the Peacekeeper is only present in Apex Legends and never made an appearance in Titanfall. So let's take a look at some sniper rifles. The Charge Rifle is a directed sniper rifle that was first introduced in Titanfall 2 and later added to Apex Legends. In both games, the Charge Rifle is known for its unique charging mechanic, which allows players to charge up the rifle for increased damage output. In terms of differences with its Titanfall predecessor, the Charge Rifle in Titanfall seems to charge up for much longer before shooting a beam, which is very different from the one in Apex Legends. Additionally, the modding of the weapon to equip sniper scopes is also a unique feature in Apex Legends because the Charge Rifle was mainly a hipfire weapon in Titanfall and had no iron sights. In summary, while the Apex Legends Charge Rifle is based on the Titanfall predecessor, it has been adapted to fit the gameplay mechanics and the style of Apex Legends. Like, seriously, in Titanfall the base ammo capacity was 20, and that's just crazy. It's already bad enough as it is with 8 or I guess 4 shots in the mag in Apex. Now imagine if it had 20 ammo instead. That'd be pretty terrible. The Longbow DMR is similar to its predecessor in terms of its design and its functionality, but there are a few differences. In Titanfall, the Longbow DMR fired a hit scan projectile, which means that the bullet hit instantly after the trigger was pulled. However, as you may know, in Apex Legends, the Longbow DMR fires a projectile with travel time, making it more difficult to hit moving targets at long distances. Another difference is that the Longbow DMR in Apex Legends can be equipped with a wider variety of attachments, including various scopes, magazines, and barrel mods. The Longbow is still a solid pick to this day, but I do prefer the next gun on this list, which is the Kraber. Ah yes, the one-shot capability is something that's always satisfying about the Kraber. You may not have been expecting that such an iconic weapon is actually pulled straight from the Kraber in Titanfall 2. Both generations of this gun look virtually identical and sound the exact same, but they actually do have some differences. Such as, the Kraber from Titanfall seems to have a slightly faster fire rate compared to the one in Apex. This is to be expected since the Kraber in Apex has a one-shot kill capability. In Titanfall, however, the Kraber had a slightly different design with a wooden stock and a shorter barrel, while the Kraber in Apex Legends has more of a futuristic design with a metallic finish and a longer barrel. Another key difference between the Kraber in Apex Legends and its Titanfall predecessor is the way it is acquired. In Titanfall, the Kraber was a regular weapon that could be equipped by players, whereas in Apex Legends, the Kraber is a rare drop that can be only found in care packages that are dropped randomly throughout the match. This rarity makes it a highly sought after weapon among players, and its power and limited availability makes it a game changer in the hands of a skilled player. And the Sentinel, despite being an excellent weapon, does not have a precursor from Titanfall. And before we take a look at the last category, I just want to thank you guys so much for watching this far. If you have enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button because it helps me out a lot, and so far only 20% of you guys watching actually do subscribe, so you know, do click the button, maybe turn on notifications. It really helps me out a lot. Anyways, let's talk about the RE45, which is another gun that also existed in Titanfall 2. It was basically the exact same gun as we have in Apex, the only thing being different was the base ammo capacity, which is 20 in Titanfall 2. The RE45 excels at close range and its fast fire rates can give players some trouble. And now you know that it also existed in TF2. Just like my favorite pistol, the Wingman. In Apex Legends, the Wingman has quickly become a fan favorite because of its devastating damage per shot and excellent precision. No matter how many times the gun gets nerfed, it still finds its way back into the meta. And Wingman actually has two predecessors in Titanfall 2. There's the Wingman Elite and the B3 Wingman. The difference between the current Wingman and the ones in Titanfall are a few, such as the absence of the holocrosshair and the iron sights of the old Wingman. In terms of similarities with its Titanfall predecessor, the Wingman in Apex is essentially the same weapon with some slight changes to its stats and attachments. One of the main differences is that the Wingman in Apex has a slightly lower rate of fire compared to the one in Titanfall. The Apex Legends version also has a slightly higher magazine capacity and can accept more types of attachments, such as the Skull Piercer rifling hop-up, which increases headshot damage. And finally, we're going to be talking about the worst weapon in the game, the P2020. It inherits its features and appearance from the Hammond P2016 from Titanfall 2. One of the key differences between the two guns is the slower rate of fire of the P2016, the difference in base ammo capacity, and of course the P2020's ability to use hop-ups like the hammer point rounds in order to increase damage output. This gun should only be used if you don't have anything else or if you're trying to give yourself a challenge. In conclusion, no matter what gun you pick up, you'll be able to tell your teammates all about the unnecessary trivia that they definitely do not care about. And if you enjoyed the video, check out this one where I talk about Apex Legends Easter eggs. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.